I had always longed to be the pride of my family, but when I discovered my sister had taken everything from me while I was gone, my dreams shattered in an instant. Chapter 9. The rightful lunar Sunday afternoon, her plane landed on schedule. It had been a relaxing flight, as she traveled first class this time. Courtesy of the academy, she was only becoming a watcher because of her dream, but was only now learning of the benefits and perks that came with the job. She was considered a new student, but she had already received a card on which, each month, a substantial scholarship would be deposited. This was even larger than the rest of her pack's numbers, as she was their leader. It was almost double. It baffled her, as she checked the card the week before, when she went to the city with Jake and the other guys, to buy some souvenirs for her family, checking the scholarship at an ATM machine, to see how much her budget for the presents could be. She could not believe the amount that was displayed. Even if she splurged the money, there would still remain more than half of the scholarship to save up, and it would renew each month. Another advantage of a Watcher student status would be traveling first class each time, as the airline company was actually owned by the current king. She was also supposed to be greeted with respect each time she visited her original pack, and the Alpha and Luna would have to welcome her personally, though she did not want that. The pack was an extended family, so she could never demand that from them. She did not even want to inform them yet that she was in fact a Watcher student. The data that showed her Alpha status, when she was made the Alpha of her newly formed pack, appeared on her left palm, but if she wore a glove no one would see it. She only wanted her family to know, to share the joy only with them. So as soon as she landed, she immediately put on her glove to hide the mark. Inside the airplane, the flight, she had removed her glove, so when the stewardess that served her a drink saw the Alpha's mark, she immediately changed her form of addressing. Not only that, she also became more respectful and did not even raise her head from that moment on, each time she passed by her seat. This treatment she received from the other stewardesses as well. They even helped her with the bags until the exit of the airport and called a private car to try to drive her to her pack, even though she said it was not necessary. They had insisted to do so. She did not know if her pack would react the same way if they found out, but she did not wish to verify it. Arriving home, she thanked the driver that carried her bags until the doorway, before she knocked on the door and waited for someone to answer it. She waited for several minutes, but nobody answered. It was strange. On Sundays everybody should be home. By this time even her father would have returned. Having no other choice, she searched her bag to find her house keys. As an organized person, the keys were found quickly. Then she immediately opened the door, and saw that inside the house indeed no one was there. She frowned, wondering where everyone went. As she carried her bags up to her room, she also tried calling them, but even to her call no one answered. Well, they should be arriving soon enough, she thought, so it was probably better to take a shower and wait for them. Opening her bedroom's door, the atmosphere felt strange. Usually, her scent would be the most predominant smell in this room, and other people's scent should only vaguely be felt. Now that she had been gone for a month, even less others' scent should be sensed, if not totally lacking. Why would anyone come in her room with her away? But her keen nose clearly smelt her sister's scent all around the room, even more than her own. Thinking of this, it warmed her heart. Could it be her sister was missing her so much that she spent time in her room? Brianna had been angry at her all this time, but it looked like she was not honest with herself. She was still a little girl throwing a tantrum. A small smile adorned her face as she placed her bags down on the floor and opened her closet to take a change of clothes. Directing her eyes at the usually perfectly aligned items on the shelves, she stopped for a moment when she saw that her clothes were actually disorganized. And not only that, on the shelves between her clothes there were also some belonging to her sister. Turning around and taking another better look inside her room, she realized she could see a lot of her sister's personal items all around, rather than only occasionally staying in her room. It felt like her sister had actually moved in her room altogether. She shrugged her head, clearing her thoughts away. She was tired and she just wanted to sleep. She would talk with them later and find out why Brianna had moved into her room. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilbe, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Since the latter had a better, bigger bedroom than hers, sighing a bit, shutting out the unusual situation she could not make tail or head from, she took off a uniform that she had come dressed in, preparing to take a shower. The formal clothes that consisted of a black shirt, black tight pants, black army-like boots, a long ankle-length overcoat with a tunic collar and a small brooch embedded on its chest indicating her status as a Watcher course student, were folded by her neatly, before placing them inside her bag. She was afraid to ruin them as the uniform warmed her heart, assured no wrinkles would be formed on the clothes. She took a towel that had barely been left unscathed by the general mess inside of her wardrobe, before going to the bathroom, mirroring the bedroom state. The normal spotless bathroom was also in a poor state, and was also full of Brianna's skincare products. Finishing a quick shower to remove the travel's dust away, she dried herself, before putting on a maxi dress quite similar to the ball she wore to the ball and thought to go check the fridge for something to eat, before going to bed for a rest. But just as she was exiting her room, her phone suddenly rang. "Hi sister, you called me." Daniel greeted happily, then waited for Celia to say what she had wanted to talk to him about. "Oh, yes, I called. Where is everyone? I am on a break from the academy, and wanted to surprise you all, but nobody is home," Celia replied as she was checking her surroundings. It was as though she searched for their presence. "What do you mean, where's everybody? Don't you know? Mom said she called you some days ago to inform you of Brianna's lunar ceremony, but you told her you could not come because of the exams." Daniel replied, confused. "What lunar ceremony? I did not know that Brianna met her mate. Even less about a ceremony taking place," Celia stated, confused, a frown slightly evident on her face, while she had stopped moving her gaze about. All her attention was concentrated on Daniel's answer. "You don't know. Brianna found her mate at the ball. Last time. It is Ray-Ann, the future alpha of our pack. They couldn't wait longer. You know, the mate pull and whatnot. So tonight she's having the lunar ceremony. From tomorrow onward she will be our official Luna," Daniel informed her happily, although he could not understand why she did not know of it. "Where is the ceremony?" His answer was not one she expected to hear. If Brianna had met her mate at the ball, it was just before she left. Why didn't they also tell her about it? Why had they hidden from her? Why was she kept in the dark? Why had they tried to get her away from the pack? Speaking on the phone was confusing. She would talk with them in person. "It is at the ballroom from last time. They wanted the party to be quite big. Do you want me to come pick you up? The ceremony will be later in the night. There is still time." Daniel offered immediately. He also wanted to see her sooner. "No, it is all right, I will walk," she simply said, wailing any emotions she might unwittingly let out. Now it truly felt that everything was strange and mysterious. First, her mother did something for her that she would never do. She let her take the exam for the Watcher course. Then Brianna found her mate before she left, but she never told her about it. She never even mentioned it on the phone. Not that anyone called her, as Daniel said they did. And now Brianna was living in her room, and she was also having the lunar ceremony without notice to her at all. "What do you mean walk? It will take longer this way. Wait for me. I will come pick you up right now," Daniel asked, confused, while he was already checking his pocket for the keys of his car. "Trust me. It will be faster than by car," she replied with an iciness she never showed to her family, no matter how expressionless she was. Not waiting for him to say anything more, she abruptly closed her phone and threw it on the bed. Usually, on her poker face barely any emotions could be seen, but now you could clearly see she was upset. Indeed, she was faster than a car. After putting on her uniform's boots that could withstand her inhuman speed and force, she went out of the house swiftly. A ride that normally took a quarter of an hour by car was made by her in 7-8 minutes. She did not even breathe heavily when she arrived, looking at the building for a second, as she cleared her mind overrun with thoughts. She walked slowly this time, not stopping her feet until reached the ballroom where people had already begun to gather. Generally, she was a presence that went unnoticed in her pack, but now her long wavy hair that rested loosely on her back, her rosy pink healthy face that had become even more glowing, even the choice of the maxi dress with the boots, which was an unusual combination, and her body which exuded authority. All it combined made most of the people there turn their head towards her, her icy eyes and cold demeanor adding to an already alluring charm. Is that Brianna's sister? Well, she managed to show up. Such a snob. She did not even want to come to her sister's lunar ceremony, snorted one of Brianna's girlfriends. I know. Brianna was quite upset about it. Apparently she had some exams and could not come. Please. She has jealousy written all over her face, said another mockingly. They talked with small voices, but her keen hearing picked up on it. Was that what her sister said about her? Why did she lie? It was unlikely they made it up. They were her best friends. She did not move away from the front door and just checked inside. Today she would get to the bottom of things, not seeing anyone from her family from where she was standing or even smelling them. She thought to check inside the ballroom. Perhaps they were a little further ahead, but just as she placed a small step in front of her, the smell of citrus and vanilla enveloped her. It smelled wonderful, making her Wolf, Crescent, who was usually very quiet, unexpectedly active. The latter kept howling in her head happily. She turned around slowly, already suspicious of what this meant, just as a handsome tall man appeared in front of her. To my agent extraordinaire, Mahlon Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. His face was quite confused, but a longing look could clearly be seen on it. She locked eyes with him, and indeed he was. To my agent extraordinaire, Mahlon Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She whispered back. To my agent extraordinaire, Mahlon Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. What are you doing home? You were supposed to come back 5 months later. Her mother, angered and even more, asked quickly with a high-pitched voice, interrupting the gazes the two had directed to one another. Intentionally or not. Yes, why are you back? Are you not taking the exams anymore? Isn't it your dream to become a watcher? Her sister Brianna also questioned her, her voice higher than usual, but with the same panic tone. She was still trying to maintain her innocent FA8 enthusiasm. In the past, Celia had committed her childish and willful behavior, but it seemed she was taken for a fool. She could hear the mocking laughs from the girls that were Brianna's friends. It seemed her younger sister was informing everyone what exam she was about to take to redirect the thoughts of the people from the current problem. No girl had dared to take the exam, even though there were no gender restrictions, because no girl would be strong enough. Only a fool would try to compare herself with the most powerful of alphas. She looked at both her mother and sister who were near her mate, without answering their questions. If she still did not understand what everything that happened meant, she would really not be qualified to occupy the alpha's position. The puzzle finally fitted together. Their actions and the fact that her mate was actually holding her sister's hand were the answer she was searching for. She had never wanted a mate before, but seeing him before her, she felt the mate pull. She was still having a poker face, but it did not mean that she was not hurt. The phantom pain she felt more than a month ago reappeared as she was looking at the both of them. So indeed it had been the phantom pain a mate would feel when his mate cheated on her. It was exactly the same. She had been a fool. They played her how they wanted. So much for being family, she thought. Even though she felt the pain because of her mate cheating on her, still it was not the reason for her anger. No, the main motive for her rage was her mother, who constantly overlooked her and always prioritized her sister over her, and her sister, whom she dearly loved. Even though most of the times, she only felt used by Brianna. She had thought it was only childish jealousy from her younger sister's part and never bothered to correct her. Her love for her sister should have been enough. The care she showed towards her, Celia thought mattered to Brianna, but the result was that she wanted to steal even her mate. She was always used by them. She always had to give up things she wanted to do because of them, and now even her mate should become her sister's. The only time they actually let her do what she wanted was to get rid of her presence, to get her away from the pack to ensure she did not interfere. She giggled amused at her own foolishness, the icy-ness seemingly melting away, though in reality her state was actually becoming even colder. All feeling of family love were rapidly cooling down. Seeing her smile, most of the guys there felt as though they saw her for the first time ever, even though she grew up with most of them. Such a beautiful girl, even if her giggle was fake, even if it felt like she was giggling to mock herself. It still sounded like small bells ringing in their ears, like a small hummingbird song. They had never heard or seen her laugh before. So much for family. She stated more for herself than for the people around and, seeing there was no more point in sorting things out, wanted to walk around them to exit the room. No other words were necessary. What could she possibly talk more with these people? What could she discuss with her mate that reeked of other females? Her sister that reeked of her mate, or her mother that reeked of hate towards her. All of it was disgusting. They were disgusting. She took a few steps and was about to pass by her mate, as she was walking towards the door, when suddenly he was pulled to the side by her sister. Brianna clung to him possessively, staring hatefully at her. Pathetic. All of you. Her voice had lost all its warmth by this point. Looking to each of them as she said those words, her fur strength seemed to ever so slightly shine through. She hadn't released her, or even unwittingly, she had not made them submit to her at all, but her expressionless look and stern gaze still made them feel like doing exactly this, submitting themselves to her. Brianna actually thought she wanted to throw herself into his arms. Such a mate. Only Brianna would want. Celia thought. Never her. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Ray Ann's POV. Before me was the most beautiful girl I have ever laid eyes on. My mate. She was as perfect as I had always pictured her to be. Her chocolate brown eyes moist with unshed tears. Her rosy pink cheeks. Her cherry lips. And her small face. Everything about her was perfect. Everything about her made my wolf scream she was mine. I had always been with countless girls. Everyone that threw themselves at me. I never refused. I knew I would finally find my mate one day, and until then I wanted to have as much fun as I could. Even just before I returned to my pack's territory, I never refused the girls that came towards me hoping to be the Luna. I laughed at them secretly, but still I would never refuse a free meal, because once I found her, my missing half a soul, I would dedicate the rest of my life to her and dedicate my life protecting my pack as the alpha. But until then I was a free man. Meeting Brianna at the ball, smelling her sweet strawberry scent. I thought she was the one. My wolf said. At that time, he did not feel the mate pull towards her and even I did not feel it. Other than her scent, she did not seem like my mate. But she was the most beautiful girl there. The only one present that stood out from the rest. If she was not, then who else would deserve to be the mate of an alpha? So I asked her then why I could feel a faint scent from her as if she was my mate, but did not feel the pull towards her as soon as I approached her. She looked at me with eyes full of love and hope, but wavered a bit at the question I asked. She stood silent for a moment, before explaining to me that she had not yet shifted as she did that he was only 20 years old. And perhaps that could be the reason. Suddenly her scent got stronger as she looked towards the door with eyes wide open. Why, I did not know. So I looked behind me following her gaze, but I did not manage to see what had caught her attention. When she talked once more, grabbing my interest again, we spent the entire duration of the ball together. She would not leave my side at all, always clinging on to me, but this made me happy as I also loved her eagerness towards me and her comforting presence. We were at the center of attention, as all the guys and girls looked towards us with envy in their eyes. The following days we were together more and more. I could not get enough of her presence and adorableness. She was a sweet girl, pure and innocent, a perfect fit for Luna. Everyone around us cheered us on, seeing us together. She was liked by so many people because of her gentleness and proper character. Everyone would tell me about her intelligence. Her care towards her friends and towards her family. Since she was young until now she liked to cook, to help around the house, and she even made her own clothes. And sometimes for her friends as well. Her friends also told me she was more mature than her older sister, with the latter not able to compare to her no matter how she struggled to do so. And I could see that for myself and confirm their words, as her sister even had delusions of becoming a Watcher student, and had thrown a tantrum until her mother let her do as she pleased. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. My petite cute mate only confided in me about this, as she was too sad and disappointed with her sister. She never told her friends though, so they would not judge her sister even harsher than they already were. Her friends also mentioned my mate was also more beautiful than her older sister, to which I agreed, as I once saw her older sister's photo when she showed me some photographs of her family on her phone. Such an invisible presence and solemn expression. Not even a small smile was on her face in any photo I saw. Always looking down. You could not see her eyes. But I did not linger much looking at her. Seeing the cheery pretty face of my mate next to her, it caught all of my attention. Spending even more time with Brianna, I noticed the strawberry scent got stronger, making me think she was getting close to shifting. I felt deeper feelings for her every day. So it only took about a week and I succumbed to temptation and made her mine. Today was supposed to be her lunar ceremony. Tonight I was supposed to mark her, as she was already carrying my cup. But even though I fell in love with her, strangely I was still waiting to feel the mate pull. My wolf had not cared for her in the slightest other than her scent. And today, I finally understood why. The strawberry fragrance hit my nose as soon as I opened the ballroom's door, with my mate behind me. It overpowered every scent in the room. It overpowered my supposed mate's scent also. Confused, I looked up following the scent, with my wolf howling in my head, locking my eyes with her. I felt my knees go weak. I felt my heart pound in my chest, and I finally felt the mate pull, realizing what seeing your true mate really should be like. My mate was Brianna's sister, the one everyone had said was a jealous, insignificant and immature person, too petty to even attend her sister's ceremony. But why could I not understand now what they had told me? Why could I not see any of it in her appearance? How could such a beautiful person be anything but perfect? Chapter 10. Loving sister. She looked at her sister, like one would gaze at a small ant. After her initial giggle, she had resumed her poker face. Even her tears had dried. Deep within her mind, perhaps she always knew how they truly were, but never wanted to admit it. Her family had never cared for her. Only her brother was the one she would still consider family. The rest of the members from today onwards would become nothing but strangers. With these thoughts in mind, she started walking once more, not giving them a second glance, and exited the venue. There was nothing else she wanted in this moment other than being as far away as possible from all of them. She felt suffocated the longer she was to stay in the Pax territory, her feelings of escaping, reflecting on her steps. This was her intention, but hurrying down the hallway, she was stopped in her tracks when she met face to face with her brother, big sister. Daniel called happily, and immediately went up to her, hugging his big sister, unaware of the happenings that occurred earlier in the ballroom. The young man had always felt alienated from Brianna, so was not particularly excited for her lunar ceremony. For this reason he was thinking of only walking inside the venue just when the ceremony was about to begin. "I am so glad to see you. I missed you," he exclaimed joyfully. Although disappointed and angry, Celia was still a logical person. She would never take out her spite on other people, though she said nothing, only gently hugged him back. In the time she was away, he seemed to have grown a little taller. He was steadily becoming an adult. Wondering how exactly she arrived so quickly to the ballroom just by walking on her feet, Daniel was curious and wanted to ask her how she did it. But as he released her from his embrace, he noticed something was off. His sister felt even more aloof than normal, even more closed off from the world, and he knew it meant she was upset. Did something happen at the academy? What's wrong? Did they bully you for being a girl? He concernedly asked her. His big sister was the quiet type and most likely wouldn't retaliate if someone was to bully her. No, quite opposite. Everyone has treated me better than I would ever expect them to. Celia calmly replied. They had treated her better than her own family. She mentally added. Then why are you upset? Come to think of it, you are going in the opposite direction of the ballroom, he noted, looking around in confusion, checking for the problem. I saw everyone, and now I am going back to the academy, she stated simply, not wanting to dive more into the subject. There was no point in doing so. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. By talking, she would delay leaving the pack territory, inviting more trouble and anguish. She had enough for today. She had enough for her whole life, actually. But you said you were on your break. How can you leave when you just got here? The reason his sister gave him was clearly a dismissive one. It was a reason covering up a bigger problem, and for Celia to become upset it took quite a serious matter to make it happen. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. A stern voice interrupted their conversation before she managed to reply. It was a voice that did not hold the smallest affection for a child a parent had not seen in more than a month. It was her father, Robert, arriving for the ceremony. He was accompanying the old alpha of the pack. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And his Luna Abigail. Seeing them, Celia railed in any emotion she had. She did not know the exact participants of the deceiving act that was happening inside the ballroom, or alternatively named the lunar ceremony of her sister, but even if she knew, it made no difference. Her only goal was leaving, showing the bare maximum respect she could conjure at this moment. She slightly nodded in the direction of the newcomers, acknowledging their presence, but did not exchange a word of greeting. When she had become a Watcher student, she and the other students had received a small guideline book with regulations they needed to follow in the future, rules other packs needed to follow in contact with them, and other such things. In the book, it was stated that by becoming a Watcher, one was no longer part of their original pack, but she was part of the pack that was formed together with the other Watchers. And to my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. They were part of the royal pack. As such, they were required to maintain their distance from the members with authority from their original pack, and to only conduct themselves in a formal way, not in the humble manner they were previously accustomed to. This applied from the moment their tattoo appeared on their bodies. As students, they were already considered half a Watcher. Explaining further, it meant that submission to their home pack's alpha not only was no longer required them, it was even prohibited. What are you doing not bowing to your alpha? Your mother told me what a stupid thing you were doing. Honestly, begging her just to become a laughing stock. Are you getting cocky now, when you have not even taken the test at the academy? He boomed, furious. Her father always had a strict demeanor and would scold her for the smallest of supposed mistakes. He was also one, as much as her mother, who showed a difference in treatment, believing the lunar fate that belonged to her sister. It is all right, Robert. Don't get angry. The girl did not mean any disrespect, Richard said, smiling, but Abigail slightly frowned at her actions. Celia did not respond to her father, ignoring him, still looking at her brother. Her father's imposing voice no longer held any importance to her. She had never felt fear towards her father, as one would fear higher-ranked alpha, only treated him with respect. It had given the latter the impression that she feared him, but now with the veil not covering her eyes anymore, the previous respect was non-existent. For some reason she had the feeling her father also knew and participated in the lie, if not at the very beginning, as he was away. Later he was most likely informed of what her sister and mother did. I am leaving now. I will text you later with my new number. The academy issued another number for me that I am obligated to have. You can contact me using that number whenever you want. If you ever have any problems or just wish to see me, give me a call and I will arrange a plane ticket for you immediately. Don't think about the costs. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Just give me a call and it will be done. She slightly smiled at her brother and kissed his forehead. Wait, why does it sound like you are never coming back? Daniel asked, worried. Something was really wrong. She only smiled lightly and was about to leave. She did not want to be in this place even for a minute longer. The pain of the bond was still making her sick. She wanted to be far away. At the academy she was never like this at all. The phantom pain did not appear even once. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Wait, shouted Ray-An, as he came running after her. Brianna had tried to stop him, but he shrugged her off and came for her. With Brianna and her mother following behind, how could he let his true mate leave? She must have misunderstood the situation. She must have thought he did not want her. As long as he explained, she would understand him in return. She was his. She was the only one in this world who would understand and love him truly. Alpha Ray and Luna Brianna, congratulations for your appointment, she said simply with only her head turned towards them. Her expressionless face did not show any emotion in particular, but her words were meant to separate the relationships between them to those of merely acquaintances, or even less. Wait, but you are my rightful Luna, he replied, panicked. She was thinking about rejecting him. Hearing him, everyone in the hallway gasped. The only ones who were not surprised were Brianna and her mother. What do you mean, rightful Luna? Asked his father, confused. Father, she is my mate, he hurriedly replied, feeling wronged. What? You said Brianna was your mate. How come it is Celia now? Richard shouted with a harsh tone. I thought so because Brianna smelt like Celia, but I did not feel the mate pull. Brianna said she had not shifted until now, so I thought it was because of this reason that I could not feel the mate pull towards her yet. But just now when I met Celia, I realized she is my true mate. Ray-N immediately explained, trying to excuse himself. You, why did you not ask me? How can you believe such a reason? Even if Brianna would not have shifted yet, you should have seen it in her eyes. You should have felt the mate pull regardless. Richard replied, annoyed with his stupid son. And what do you mean Brianna did not shift yet? She shifted at the beginning of this year, stated Daniel, confused. His big sister should have been the Luna, not Brianna. Well, he always knew that girl had not even one Luna bone in her body. It finally clicked. Only now Ray-N understood her panicked expression at the ball. The reason he did not feel the mate pull. Everything fitted. He had been deceived. Celia sighed. She was not even upset anymore. It seemed her sister actually did her a favor. If she had seen Ray-N before, it would have been impossible to become a watcher. The only problem that remained was the fact that her heart ached involuntarily, and Crescent kept howling in pain since she saw her mate. But she knew her wolf. She would have never accepted someone that had fooled around with other women, and definitely not someone that impregnated her sister. Since he arrived in the Pack's territory, she kept having phantom pains almost every night. Even before he met her sister at the ball, who would ever want such a mate? The three of them would be all right together, just as always one person to wolves. Waning had surfaced from deep within her mind for some time already, and had protectively wrapped around Crescent with her body, which was quite easy as the white wolf was much bigger than Crescent. In her warm embrace, the latter settled down. Ray-N looked angry at Brianna. He could have shredded her to pieces if he could. She was the cause of all these problems. His look devoid of any love made the latter cower behind her mother. Since she had met Ray, and until now, this was the first time she had felt such a killing intent from him. The first time he had showed such a disgusted face towards her. She was already carrying his pup. Why would Celia still matter to him now? Alpha Ray-N, please quell your anger. Brianna is frail right now. Immediately intervened her mother, trying to diffuse his rage. All their plans had gone awry, but they still had an unexpected advantage. The pup that was growing in Brianna's womb was the rightful heir to this pack. He had to accept the reality the way. But still, an alpha's rage was dangerous. In a moment of anger he could hurt Brianna. She is frail. She was the one who kept me from my true mate. He shouted erratic. His anger kept rising, and his aura ate uncontrollably, making them submit to him. Even the people who were inside the ballroom across the hallway felt his changed mood, though they did not dare exit, as he had ordered everyone to stay inside. The only ones who were not showing their neck in submission were his father and Celia. Her aloof stance had not changed from the beginning until now. His aura was not even on par with the lowest ranked member of her pack, and that was putting it lightly. Sister, please tell him you did not want a mate. Your dream has always been to be a watcher. That is why you went away immediately after the ball. Her sister pleaded. The tone of her voice was small and humble, totally different from before. She had thought that since they had already mated, and she was carrying his pup, Rayanne would ignore and reject her sister, even if she was his rightful mate, since their childhood until now. Her aloof sister was always ignored by everyone. She could never compare to her. That was why she had dared deceive Rayanne at the ball. When he saw her and came towards her, her heart pounded and she felt proud of herself. Of course she was his Luna. She had no idea exactly what the mate pull implied. She only knew that his looks and position only fitted someone like her. But her confidence waned when he asked her at that time why she smelt like his mate. Though only subtly, she did not understand what he meant. Until he said the scent got stronger, and that was when she saw her sister standing at the entrance. She had taken her dress and there was not enough time to wash it, even though her sister had tried it on before. So Celia's scent was all over the dress. Realizing this, she acted quickly, pulling his attention on herself. Unluckily her sister had a mishap and did not move away from the entrance. A waiter had spilled some wine on her light-colored dress, resulting in the latter having no other choice but to leave the venue to clean the wine stain. Once Celia left, she was still worried. She could return any second now to the ballroom. So as soon as Brianna could, she called her mother and told her what happened. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Her mother was happy and said that it was all right if Celia was Rayanne's mate. Frankly, she did not care who it was specifically, as long as one of her daughters was the Luna. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Brianna surely would also have an alpha mate as well. It worked even better, but she could not stand it. She saw Rayanne first and only she could be his mate. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Until she could find her true mate, if she ever did, her sister would rise above her in the pack. She could never permit such a thing happening. She feared the mocking gazes from those around. She was always the best, and should be the best still. So she convinced her mother that there was still a probability to not find him, her true mate. Then what would happen if the aloof Celia was not to Rayanne's taste, and he rejected her? In the end her mother agreed for fear of not having at least one of her girls become a Luna, and helped her send Celia away. She was supposed to be gone for 6 months. She would have already been marked by. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. A girl could never take part even during the exams for the Watchers. They must have sent Celia away, she thought, as her jaws clenched in anger. Now she was in this situation, but it was still all right. Celia had always been like a mother to her. She would surely help her out, ever since she was young until now. Whatever she asked from her sister, the latter had never refused. As such, she was now implying for Celia to take responsibility and make it seem like she was the one who asked Brianna to impersonate his mate. She thought Celia would still help her, but she had been the naughty one. Her sister helped her before because she knew Brianna's personality and thought of her only as a childish and innocent girl. But she was not foolish to help her. regardless of the situation she was in. Especially now, when the wrongs she did escalated. This was not a childish prank. This was not a project that she would do in her stead. And these were not clothes and cupcakes that she, Brianna, would claim as her own. No, this was life. This was her worth in Brianna's eyes. A helper, nothing more. Still, in recognition for Brianna's assistance in her enrollment, even if it was not a pure intention from her younger sister's part, she did not deny or affirm her words. She did not try to add fire to the fuel. It would have meant that she truly wished to be Ray Ann's mate. Chapter 11. One mate for life. Celia's phone suddenly rang in the deafening silence. The situation had become stalemate for some moments already. Celia had not reacted at all to Brianna's plea, so the latter did not know how to continue speaking. If she were to say anything else, she could possibly make the situation worse. And Diane, the protective mother, did not know how to guard Brianna if Rayan were to suddenly attack her daughter. As for the other people, well, other than Celia, who just wanted to leave, each of them was more shocked than the other. No one knew how they could rectify the matter. Inside the ballroom, the pack members were waiting for the lunar ceremony of a fake mate, moreover a pregnant one. How could they set things right? Did the possibility to correct the matter even exist? Daniel on his part was the only one who looked worriedly toward Celia, but his words were stuck in his throat. What could he say to his sister? Brianna had always taken advantage of Celia, but this time she had crossed any possible limit. She had taken it way too far. Everyone kept quiet, resulting in the awkward atmosphere that was perturbed by the ringtone. She calmly checked her phone, only to see Jake's name on the caller ID. Honestly, a friend she met a month ago called her after only a day of absence, but her family did not manage to call her even though a month had passed since her departure. Hello. She picked up the phone in their presence, unconcerned about the current mood. She had said she would call him after arriving home, but she had omitted to. It was unfair towards him to not answer because of the lovely people around her. Hey, Alpha. His greeting boomed in her ear. He was clearly excited to hear her voice, his clear, happy tone contrasting with the current funeral-like mood. The high-ranking werewolves of her pack, of course, could hear it also, even if he was not on speaker. Was it a joke between them? Their faces seemed to say. Otherwise, who would call a girl Alpha? Hi, Jake. I am sorry. I said I would call you, but I did not, she frankly admitted, without any excuses. Her warm tone, unlike until now, even though she had not said many words during this whole time, made Ray Ann's heart take and fill with jealousy. No problem. No problem. Who would dare to question their leader? I just wanted to check if you arrived home without any problems, he said reassuringly. The secretary informed me and the guys that, although the courses start on the 15th of September for the normal classes, for the Watchers students they will start on the 1st of September, so you should come back some days before the 1st. As your beta, I told her I will inform you myself, so she will not call you personally to let you know, he informed her enthusiastically, happy she would come back earlier than she intended. Thank you for letting me know. Can you also do me a favor? Celia asked, her tone still calm and mellow. The information about the Watcher classes had quelled even more the lingering feelings of sadness and resentment she subconsciously still retained towards her family. Sure. Anything for my Watcher Pack's Alpha, he hurriedly replied. I do not have a secretary's number on my old phone, and the Academy-issued phone is not with me. Please ask her to book me a plane ticket on the next flight to the Academy. I'd only need about an hour to get to the airport, so any flight that is 2 hours or more away would be perfect. Her voice did not change as she told him, but he did notice something was off. She had said she would stay home for the entire period of the vacation, and now she wished to come back immediately. Something must have been wrong with her family to make her leave. Celia was not an unruly and irrational person. If anything, she was very attentive, and would likely suffer grievances by herself and cause others harm. Even before when they went to the city, the care and happiness she displayed while choosing presents for her loved ones showed just how much she valued them. but from her family's part, although he could not tell whether they felt the same towards her. The one thing he knew for certain was that the only person she had any contact with was her brother. The rest of her family had not called her at all, but he did not question her. They would talk soon anyway in person. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. The secretary already said that whenever you want to come back to just inform her, and she would book a first-class ticket on the following flight. You can already go to the airport. They should have VIP waiting areas for Watchers and Alphas prepared, so you can wait there comfortably. I will call a private driver from my family's company to come pick you up. We have a branch in the city next to your PAX border. It should take half an hour for him to arrive. Take care and call me when you meet with the driver, Jake quickly stated. Quite an efficient beta you are. Thank you. I will do so, she replied gratefully. She was warned by his care. He had already considered everything for her, but did not intrude further in her privacy. Sighing a bit, as she had still been a bit unnatural and stiff as she talked, she closed the phone and headed for the exit. She should go and take her bags and head to the PAX border. Luckily, she did not unpack anything yet. Well, she did take out something from the luggage. The souvenirs for her family. But those were things that she wouldn't want to take back, even though she no longer wished to give them to her family. Considering those objects represented her love for them, forget it. She would just consider it as giving alms, or farewell presents. The rest of the people there only now reacted, seeing she was about to leave. They had been stunned. She was actually a Watcher student, and not just any Watcher student, which was already impossible for a girl. She was an alpha of a whole pack of them. Her brother felt proud. Deep down he knew what she was capable of. He was not sure about her strength, as he had never even witnessed her wolf form, but in regards to intelligence and fairness, she was more than qualified. Her father did not know what to make of the situation. He never did talk much with his daughter. He only knew her as someone who loved to do the chores around the house, but he never knew her passions, her wishes, and her capability. A Watcher child would make any parent proud. He considered her the least capable of his children, and yet she was actually the best of the three. Her mother's eyes flashed. The authority, the respect she would get from everyone. Even the alpha of the pack would have to personally receive a Watcher, and as long as a Watcher would be inside the pack's border, the alpha could only do whatever a Watcher asked. Otherwise he could be punished, or even exiled if a Watcher snapped his fingers. She had heard that Watchers were only below the council, and the council was only below the king. What could she do to change her daughter's mind? If Celia left now without making peace with her, perhaps she would never come back again. The old alpha couple were also terrified. Their son was about to make another his Luna, other than his rightful mate, and the true mate could possibly banish them or punish them if she held resentment towards them. When she became a full Watcher 2 years later, or even earlier if she took her grievances to the council. In her position it was quite easy to meet them. And they, as a lesser pack, they would certainly have problems getting hold of the assistance of the council members, even less hope of directing their superiors. Whatever Celia informed them would become the truth. She could even exaggerate their acts and they would have no way to defend themselves. Celia, please wait. You are my mate, how can you leave me and go? Ray-An asked desperately. He was just as surprised as the rest of them, but for him what mattered most was the mate pull he felt towards her at the moment. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Please conduct yourself respectfully. You are already about to conduct your lunar ceremony with your chosen one, she replied. No sarcasm and no pain in her voice. She was already calming down. She heard that mates could barely live without one another once they found each other. But for her, it seemed the pain was already subsiding slowly, for which she was grateful. But you are my mate. Rest assured I will only conduct the ceremony for you. Hearing his words, her sister started to weep. She had been feeling jealous and angry, hearing that Celia had managed to pass the exams, and now she was also robbing her of Ray-An. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Milburn, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I will never accept a mate who's been with countless women since he came to our packed territory, and I will certainly not be the Luna of a man who has impregnated my sister. You have already made your choice. When you could not respect the mating bond, he had no idea how she knew of his flings, and even less how she knew about her sister, but it was the truth, making him unable to refute her words. Still he could not give up. This was before I knew of your existence. And as for Brianna, I thought she was my mate. Please do not deny us. A werewolf only has one mate for life. If you will not have me, you will never have a mate again. Can you deny your wolf her rightful mate? He reasoned with the only thing he thought would move her. Indeed, the human side could find other werewolves or humans. They could mate with others, but the rightful mate was only one. So when the human side chose another, his or her wolf could suffer. She wavered a bit. Not that she was thinking about finding someone else, but she did not want her wolf to suffer. I do not want you as well. But the thick mate who could not identify his own mate because of constant mingling with other women, and a wolf who was not strong enough to hold him from debauchery, who would want the both of you. This time Crescent took over, angrily spouting her words. Really, her mate could only reason with them by making Celia feel guilty. He did not feel it instead. He did not even apologize for his actions. Ray-Ann realized who spoke, but it made the situation worse for him. He could not accept that both were trying to reject him. In a fit of anger, his wolf took over, with the human side easily letting him take control of their body. What his wolf wanted was his wish as well. His eyes darkened as his canines and claws elongated, while he had already started to run towards Celia with his fastest possible speed. With her keen higher-ranked werewolf vision, the fastest movements of Ray-Ann seemed only a childish attempt at harming her. But seeing his eyes that were following her neck, her expression darkened and her gaze turned icy ire than when he had started his steps towards her. If he had only wanted to attack her, she would still understand. He was an alpha and his pride had suffered because of the rejection. But the gaze that had not left her neck and his wide-opened mouth were a clear indication of his actions. He wanted to bite her. He was trying to forcefully make her his. Ray-Ann's fast attack should have ended when his fangs were buried deep inside her flesh. Then she would have had no choice but to accept him, no choice but to remain by his side. These were the man's thoughts, wishes that remained unfulfilled, as his head stopped inches away from her neck. Stunned and confused, he was not understanding why he was seeing the part where his mark should be, but struggling to the best of his abilities. He was still not able to move closer. With one hand on his neck, she had immobilized him completely. It was the first time she had used her strength in human form at full capacity and without the aid of her two wolves. Still, it felt like she had easily overpowered him. If she clenched a little bit more her hand, his spine would fracture and his life would end. But by doing so, what would the difference be between him and her? He had tried to use low means to subdue her, but she still abided by the rules, and she still had her consciousness. Article 7.2b of the Watcher Code: violence against Watchers or Watcher students is considered treason, so they are free to pass judgment as they see fit without prior notifying the council. This is only a warning. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Milburn, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. In consideration to the pack that raised me, I will let you be. Try it one more time and you will lose the title you barely received. Finishing her words, she flung his neck, making his body crash into the wall. She would not kill him, but it did not mean she was a saint. Retracting her left hand that was used to throw him, everyone could see the tat that only appeared on a watcher on her left palm, making the realization of what just happened more frightening. An offense to a watcher was not something to joke about. They finally realized she truly was a watcher student. The strength to stop a raging alpha with one hand. How many were capable of such a feat? It was the first time they saw her for who she truly was. So the only reason they could treat her how they wished in the past was because she allowed them to. Had she intended otherwise, she could have even challenged the old alpha for his position in the pack. With his aching body, Ray-Ann stood up. He still wanted to say something, but she did not let him. Alpha, do not try to reason with me any longer. The mate call. Every werewolf knows what it is. Deep within your mind you realized my sister was not your mate. Even your wolf knew she was not. But you wished her to be. Her personality. Her beauty. It was everything you wished for in a mate. Now own up to it. Complete your Luna's harmony, because you will certainly not have me as your Luna. No matter how long you wait, she said, then looked at everyone and only concluded. Everyone, please deal with your problems on your own. I am sorry. I have a plane to catch. She turned around and already decided she would not talk anymore. She had tried to leave several times already, but they kept trying to stop her. Snapping out of her daze, seeing her daughter leave, Diane trailed behind her quickly as she was walking towards the exit. With her keen hearing, Celia noticed her footsteps, but did not turn around to look at her, no matter what. This time she was truly leaving. Honey, wait. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Please let me explain. The older woman hurriedly spoke, her expression one of desperation. Diane had even stumbled on her feet trying to catch up to her. But it was futile. She did not let her mother utter a word more, picking up her speed. The first rank werewolf vanished in front of her mother's eyes. What remained was the slightly perturbed ground, and dusty caused by her fast steps. Chapter 12. A brief encounter. With Jake's help, Celia was driven to the airport quickly and without any inconveniences. The driver he sent arrived at the Pack border half an hour after the call, and had swiftly brought her to the airport. He had also made sure she found the VIP area, as Jake's father was the alpha of his pack and often used the special waiting room designed for the werewolf leaders of the various packs. The driver directed her with ease. She had changed into her uniform and also adorned the student brooch on her chest before she left her home, so fortunately no further identification was asked of her to be allowed access to the waiting room. Sitting on the couch with her head propped on one hand, she looked out the window to see the incoming planes. At this point, she had no energy left to do anything else but this. Checking her phone for a brief moment to find out the time, she ignored all the missed calls that popped up and the unread messages, her only interest being the conversation with Jake. According to the details, Jake had messaged her about the flight. She still had to wait about an hour more. But she was lucky. Asking him to help her book the flight was the best idea, as it was the very last one of the day. It was also a private flight that normal people and low-ranked werewolves could not use. Fortunately, her Watcher student status had made all the difference. Otherwise, she would have had to wait until the next day for the first commercial flight. Crescent had settled down as well. It must have been Waning's earlier company that made all the difference. Waning always had a calming effect towards Celia, and Crescent also. Her healing power was also the best. This was why Crescent had wanted to suggest for Waning to take the phantom pains away a month ago. When Celia kept feeling hurt, as her thoughts wandered to Crescent, naturally Celia also thought of Waning. After comforting Crescent in the hallway, the latter had now retreated again to the back of her mind, and did not even respond when Celia called, making her wonder why the wolf did so. In the past, whenever Waning retreated to the back of her mind, she would still hear her voice and the latter would also come up to talk to her from time to time. But now it was like she closed herself off, like she sealed herself from the outside world completely. Pondering about this a bit, she suddenly realized that Ray-Ann's wolf was supposed to be Waning's mate also, so she must have suffered just as much as Crescent. It was insensible of her that they had not tried to make Waning feel better as well. As such, she did not try to call Waning again, leaving her some time to recollect her thoughts. Waning was the most silent of the three, preferring to keep her problems to herself whenever she encountered them. If Celia or Crescent tried to make her speak of them, the white wolf would suffer more from the conversation, rather than feel better. It had made Celia worry about her regarding this, but the comfort Waning preferred was only the one she would ask herself. Sighing, as she had found herself doing numerous times since she had remained alone, She only conversed from time to time with Crescent. At the other far end of the large VIP room, another person was also waiting for the plane's crew to finish their preparation. The tall man, dressed in a professional black suit, sitting with his legs crossed, was currently reading a document. He was surrounded by 6 guards that stood a few feet away from his seat, circling it, preventing other people getting close to the somber man. Not that anyone would dare to do so. His black ebony hair neatly combed towards the back of his head, his pale white face, the bright blue eyes, sharp nose and small lips made a beautiful sculpted man. But his sharp clenched jaw and his thick straight brows furrowed in a frown made him unapproachable, even without the presence of the guards. He sighed and frowned more with each minute that he spent reading the report, turning a page of it from time to time, before returning his left hand to support his head. As he was checking its contents, he was trying to concentrate on what was written, while he kept reminding himself mentally that his subordinate needed a re-evaluation. The coup-written report was too needlessly detailed, instead of only having included in it the main ideas. If he had to check every detail himself, then why would he need other people? He frowned once more, before finally giving up, closing the document. Seriously, why did he allow Micah, his beta, to take some time off? The bastard could not even leave a proper replacement for Hijin. He decided then that the poor guy would not have another free day for the next 5 years. He had already let him have 10 days off in 3 years. It should be enough. Raising his eyes in front of him for the first time into hours, as he sighed in displeasure, his eyes were captured by the lovely image that appeared at the other far end of the room. On the opposite side, the most beautiful woman he had ever laid eyes on in his 100 years of life, and he had seen so many before, was sitting silently on a couch, her unfocused eyes gazing out the window. There was nothing truly special about her. If you only glanced on the surface, her chocolate brown eyes were an ordinary normal color. Most of the population on Earth had that color, but they seemed moist and watery. The red rings that framed them, the clear evidence she had been crying, making them more vivid, enhancing their brilliant sparkle. Her dark hair was just ruffled and put up in a messy bun, but it made her already small face seem even smaller and cuter, regardless of the lack of makeup applied on it. In her entirety, she seemed just like a beautiful woman, but not so much as you could say the most beautiful one. But nonetheless, her whole appearance fitted so perfect together that it felt like he was looking at a painting. He felt like his gaze could not leave her, captivating him. How lovely it would be if someone like her was his mate, his half a soul that he had been searching for through the decades. But he knew she could not be the one meant for him. After so many years he had lost all hope of finding his mate. Perhaps he did not even have one. He knew as he looked for her all over the world, searching all the places he could think of, but had been unable to find her. The girl before him was lovely, and perhaps he could even easily fall in love with her. But he did not feel the mate pull towards her, even if his nose picked up the lovely strawberry scent from the direction of the girl, coincidentally the smell of his favorite fruit. For a werewolf to be a mate of another there needed to be a certain pull. He would have recognized her at first glance if she truly was his mate, but sadly her wolf did not seem to acknowledge his, and his wolf also did not recognize hers. To be a mate there were 3 conditions that absolutely needed to be met. One was smell. The scent of a mate would feel enticing to a werewolf. 2 was attraction, which could be seen if the mates' eyes locked together. And 3 was wolf. The pair needed to recognize each other. Her smell and the attraction were obviously there, but the wolf was not. He only ever wanted one single mate, the mate designed for him, just like his mother had been for his father. Any other werewolf would just leave you once they found their true mate. And he also wanted to be with his true mate. What if she had been waiting for him and he did not wait for her? He could not handle his mate's rejection because of this reason. He sighed again. It seemed that after all he still did not lose all hope to find his mate. He chuckled to himself mockingly. He was still waiting for her even after all this time. Clearing his mind of thoughts, he saw that the beautiful lady stood up from the couch, and that was when he noticed the Royal Academy's uniform. He looked again intently. concentrating his vision, and checked the metallic brooch on her chest. It was the identification of the type of student she was, the year she was in and her rank in her class. The silver-white Watchers brooch, which shined brightly, was one of a kind. It was owned by only one person out of all the students of the same year. He quickly searched his memory. Just as the realization of her identity hit him in the next second, he was informed earlier that this year a girl had managed to defeat several dozen third-ranked werewolves in the melee war, becoming a Watcher and the alpha of the new class. It had surprised him and everyone from the council. It was not an easy feat to actually win against so many alpha-ranked werewolves, and seeing her now in front of his eyes, she was a bit taller than most girls. This was true, but she was thin and seemed frail at the same time. He could not comprehend just how she managed to defeat them. Everyone had urged him to see the recording of the melee war, to see the spectacular fight. They told him that for the first part of the test she had not attacked much, only defending against attackers. But mid-fight, when she went from a defensive stance to an offensive one, it had been a crushing defeat. It had piqued his interest to see the fight, but he hadn't managed to find the time for it. Now seeing her in person, it made him even more curious, and he would certainly watch it, trailing her with his eyes until she left the room. He gestured to the assistant who was behind him to approach for an order. The latter came close, sweating profusely. As he had seen the report he had painstakingly written closed abruptly. "Yes, Your Highness." The young man immediately acknowledged and slightly bent his head. "Find the information about this year's Watcher exam for me. I want to know the details of the new alpha," he succinctly ordered. "I already have it with me, Your Highness. Do you want to read it now? I also have the recording of the melee war," the assistant quickly offered. Solas looked surprised towards him. It seemed that this assistant was not so inefficient as he had appeared at first glance. Perhaps he should give him another chance. And also let that bastard keep his 10 days vacation every 3 years. He did not realize that his assistant was actually an avid fan of the Watchers, especially of this year's alpha, the first ever female Watcher, and so had simply kept the file to learn more about his idol.